She was the untouchable CEO of a billion-pound empire. He was just the night cleaner who mopped her office at midnight. But when she slipped him a desperate note that read, "Someone's following me. Please don't leave," everything changed. What happened next would expose a conspiracy that reached the very top of corporate power. This is the story of how a single dad, with a hidden past, saved the woman who would save him right back. Jack Miller had never imagined his life would lead him here, methodically mopping floors in the dead of night, while London slept. At 36, his weathered hands told a far different story from the one most people assumed when they saw him in his grey overalls. These weren't hands that had always known the weight of a mop or the sting of bleach. They'd once designed intricate defense systems, written algorithms that could predict threats with terrifying accuracy, and signed contracts worth hundreds of millions. But that was before Sarah's diagnosis, before the aggressive cancer that mocked their savings, before the endless hospital bills that swallowed everything they'd built together, before the funeral where 8-year-old Emily stood in her black dress, clutching a teddy bear, asking why Mummy wouldn't wake up, why God needed her more than they did. The leap from lead engineer at a top defense firm to night cleaner at Sterling Enterprises hadn't been gradual, it was deliberate. A clean break to something simple. After complexity had taken everything, Emily needed stability now, needed routine, needed a dad who came home every morning to make her pancakes and walk her to school, not one who vanished 4 weeks on classified jobs he couldn't talk about. She didn't need to know. Her father had once briefed generals or held clearance so high, even mentioning projects required written permission from the Ministry of Defense. In their small 2-bedroom flat in East London, covered in Emily's drawings of butterflies, rainbows, and rather detailed robots, Jack had rebuilt a life from the ashes. When she asked, all innocent curiosity, why Daddy cleaned buildings instead of building rockets like he used to, he'd ruffle her curls and say every job mattered. There was honor in honest work that let him look after her. The truth was far more tangled. The defense world doesn't forgive those who walk away, especially not those who know its darkest corners. Jack had burned every bridge with surgical care, so no one could drag him back, so his knowledge would die with him, rather than be twisted into the things that still haunted him. Sterling Enterprises had taken him on without digging too deep into his carefully scrubbed past. They needed someone reliable for the graveyard shift, someone who wouldn't nick anything, who'd turn up every night. No fuss. They got rather more than they bargained for, though they'd never know it. Each night, Jack watched the corporate machine from the edges, invisible to the executives, who strode past without a glance, a ghost in corridors where billion-pound deals were sealed with handshakes and lives ruined with emails. He'd found an odd peace in the repetition, in leaving things cleaner than he found them, where the only casualty was dirt. Olivia Sterling had felt the eyes on her for 3 weeks now, perhaps longer, if she was honest. It started suddenly, a black saloon in her rearview mirror, too often on the morning commute, footsteps matching hers on empty pavements. When she left the office at midnight, the prickling sense of being photographed across restaurants during working lunches. At first she brushed it off as paranoia, only natural when you're 34, unmarried, and running a company worth more than some country's GDP. But the signs multiplied. Impossible to ignore. Strange echoes. On her private calls. The doorman mentioning. Visitors asking after her schedule. Men in sharp suits. Claiming to be old friends. But blanking on names. Her office disturbed. Papers shifted by millimeters. Mouse not quite where she'd left it. Faint whiff of unfamiliar aftershave. Worst of all, no one she could trust. Her exec team was a nest of ambition and fragile alliances. Any of them might gain from her stumble. Thomas Bradley, her deputy CEO, watched her with barely veiled hunger. The board had their own agendas, their own ties, to rivals who'd pay dearly for inside dirt. Her father, Richard Sterling, had built the empire on suspicion and double checks, teaching her early that trust was a luxury leaders couldn't afford. Even family would sell you for the right price. Going to him meant admitting defeat, proving she couldn't hack the pressure he'd warned her about. When she fought for CEO at 30, the police needed evidence she didn't have. Private security meant more strangers with unclear loyalties. So she endured, silent, keeping the mask of control in board meetings, sweeping her flat for bugs every night, varying routes home, randomizing her diary, learning to spot familiar faces in different crowds. She even carried pepper spray in her Hermes bag, though she doubted it'd help against pros. Tonight had been different, bolder, clumsier. The man in the dark coat hadn't bothered hiding. Perhaps he wanted her scared. When she entered the building and saw Jack, the quiet cleaner, who kept his head down outside the corporate game with kind eyes, that reminded her of Grandad. Something in her gut said trust him. Desperation, maybe. Intuition. Or just the way he didn't look at her like a prize or a rung on the ladder. He looked at her like a person. The rooftop of Sterling Enterprises gave a completely different view of the city. Lights below like scattered diamonds on black velvet. Wind carrying away all pretense of hierarchy. Jack had followed her up in the service lift, his master keys opening doors most execs needed badges for. She stood near the edge, not too close, but enough to make him tense. Her $5,000 suit, odd against the vents and satellite dishes. "You must think I'm completely mad," she said, not turning, voice nearly lost in the wind. Jack chose his words carefully, knowing whatever came next would shatter the quiet life he'd built over 2 years. "I think you're bloody terrified," he replied, stepping closer, but keeping distance. "And I reckon you've got every reason to be." She turned then, eyes that had stared down, hostile takeovers, now fragile, almost lost. "I can't trust a soul in this place," she admitted, words spilling like water through a cracked dam. "Dad's got eyes everywhere. The board all have their own games. Someone wants me gone badly enough to tail me home, invade every corner of my life." Jack listened. No interruptions. As she poured it out. The surveillance. The odd encounters. The growing certainty. Someone planned something awful. She spoke of the suffocating loneliness of power. The weight of expectation. Never real friends. Only alliances. Never real relationships. Only calculated dinners. When she finished, the city hum filled the silence. Like a living thing. "I'll help you," Jack said at last. Voice carrying quiet steel. She hadn't expected. "But there are conditions. Non-negotiable. My daughter Emily stays completely out of it. No one knows about this. And when you're safe, when it's done, we go back to strangers. You're the CEO. I'm the cleaner. End of." Olivia nodded fast, relief washing over her. like dawn after endless night. What made you trust me? She asked. Curiosity cutting through desperation. Jack looked out at the lights, weighing how much truth to give. Because you're the first suit who's ever really seen me, he said simply. Most look right through cleaners, like we're part of the furniture. But you passed that note. Like you knew I was someone who could help. Like you saw a person. They stayed another hour, planning details. Jack would shadow her after shifts, use access to watch places others couldn't reach, be eyes where CEOs drew attention. Neither mentioned the spark between them, the quiet connection between two bruised souls who'd found each other in the strangest place, the multi-story car park. Beneath Sterling Enterprises was a concrete cavern, harsh angles, flickering fluorescents, dancing shadows. Between carefully placed cameras, Olivia's heels echoed like gunshots. As she walked to her sleek Jaguar, the sound bounced off walls that suddenly seemed to close in. She sensed him before she saw him. The man from before, now moving with purpose. No pretense. He stepped from behind a pillar, like a bad dream made real. Blocking her path, face half in shadow, intent crystal clear. Miss Sterling, he said, voice flat and professional, somehow more menacing than any shout. Your father wants a word. He's concerned about your recent decisions. Her hand moved to her mobile. He stepped closer. Close enough. She could smell stale cigarettes. And something chemical. That won't be necessary, he said calmly. You're coming with me. We can do this nicely. Or we can explore other options. Your father prefers nicely. The threat hung in the recycled air. Then Jack appeared. Silent until he chose noise. Moving like someone trained for exactly this. Each step precise. Economical. The lady's not interested in your offer, he said, placing himself between them. The man laughed. Cold, humorless. Pulling back his coat to show a holstered pistol. This isn't your business, cleaner. Walk away while you still can. This is family. What happened next took under 3 seconds, but would replay in Olivia's head for weeks. Jack deflected the reaching hand, struck pressure points, dropped the man to one knee, gasping. A hold. No visible marks, but air impossible to find. You're going to leave now, Jack said quietly. Authority in certainty, not volume. You're going to tell whoever sent you. Miss Sterling is under protection. And if I see you again, if you come within 500 yards, we'll have a very different conversation. One that doesn't end with you walking away. He released. The man scrambled off, dignity left behind. Jack turned to Olivia, danger fading to concern. In an instant. You all right? Did he touch you? She shook her head. Words gone. Mind struggling to match the gentle cleaner she'd watched for months. With this capable protector. Who are you really? She whispered. Jack's shoulders sagged. Adrenaline draining. Making him look older. More tired. Someone who promised to keep you safe. He said simply. Come on. I'll walk you to your car. Tomorrow we need a serious chat about your father and why his having you followed. The coffee shop was deliberately ordinary. Greasy spoons. Uni students. Struggling artists. The sort of place executives never went. Where surveillance would stick out like a sore thumb. Jack arrived first. Corner booth. Back to the wall. Clear sight lines. To both doors. Olivia came in. Wearing jeans. And a faded university hoodie. Looking younger. More real. Than she ever did in armor. She slid opposite him. Knees almost touching. Under the scarred table. You were military. She said. Not a question. Jack stirred his black coffee slowly, spoon clinking. Not exactly, he said, meeting her eyes. I was a systems engineer. For defense contractors. The sort of projects that don't officially exist. That require you to forget you ever worked on them. He told her in careful pieces. PhD from Imperial at 25. Aggressive recruitment. By firms that never made headlines. Work whose implications he only understood too late. I designed things meant to protect people, he said, voice heavy, with regret that had aged him. But tech doesn't care about intention. In the wrong hands, protection becomes oppression. Defense becomes offense. Olivia listened, recognizing the weight of secrets that can't be unlearned. What made you leave? She asked softly. Jack pulled out his phone, showed her Emily at her last birthday. Gap-toothed grin. Chocolate cake everywhere. My wife Sarah got ill 2 years ago. Aggressive pancreatic cancer. The kind that doesn't care how much money you throw at it. I spent everything. Sold everything. Borrowed against life insurance. When she died. When I held Emily. As she cried for her mum. I realized. She didn't need a dad. Who built weapons. Even defensive ones. She needed someone. There every morning. Who wouldn't disappear. On secret jobs. Who could help with homework. Without worrying. About breaking the Official Secrets Act. He paused. Honest, uncomfortable. So I disappeared. Changed our names quietly. Took a job. Where no one looks. 4 ex-defense contractors. With top-level clearance. Started over. Where Emily could have a normal life. Olivia reached across. Fingers brushing his hand. With unexpected gentleness. You gave up everything. I gave up nothing. That mattered more than her. He said simply. The talk shifted. Olivia sharing her own story. Of sacrifice and expectation. A father who loved her. By controlling her. A throne she never wanted. But couldn't abandon. Without ruining thousands of jobs. They talked until closing. 2 people discovering. Isolation comes in many forms. But connection can bridge. Even the widest gaps. Richard Sterling's office. Took the entire 50th floor. A temple of power. With floor-to-ceiling glass. Making visitors feel judged by God himself. Italian marble. Japanese oak. German engineering. Olivia sat opposite. Her father's vast mahogany desk. Feeling like the child. Summoned for breaking curfew. Despite now running the company. Richard, 71. But looking younger. Through sheer will. And the best surgeons. Studied her. With the gaze. That built an empire. From nothing. The Takahashi deal. Needs a stronger alliance. He said without preamble. Marcus Chen is interested in you. His family's holdings in Asia. Would give us Pacific dominance. The marriage would be the merger of the century. Olivia's stomach turned. Marcus Chen, 45. Twice divorced. Treated women like assets to optimize and discard. I'm not marrying. For a business deal, Dad. She said, voice level. Through huge effort. This is the 21st century. Not the Middle Ages. Richard's face stayed stone. You're 34, unmarried. No children. The board questions your stability. Some think you're too emotional. For the role. That giving you CEO. At 30 was premature. He slid a leather folder across. Slow, deliberate. Security reports. You've been seen. With a cleaner. Multiple times after hours. Do you understand what that looks like? To investors. To partners. The invasion stung. You've been having me followed. She said flatly. I've been protecting you. Richard corrected. Paternal, condescending. From yourself, apparently. This maintenance man. This nobody. is a distraction you can't afford. I've spoken to HR. He'll be transferred to our Birmingham depot by Monday. Unless you see sense. The threat was clear. Comply, or Jack would suffer. You can't just. She began. Richard raised a hand. That had signed death warrants. 4 entire companies. I built this from nothing. 1 van and a dream. I won't watch you ruin it. Over some romantic rebellion. Against your responsibilities. The Chen merger happens. With or without you. But it's cleaner with you. He stood. Still imposing. Board meets Thursday. I expect you to announce the engagement then. Wear the blue Dior. It photographs well. As Olivia left, she passed Thomas Bradley, entering her father's office. Neither lowered their voice. Assuming she was gone. The cleaner situation is handled. Thomas said clearly. The breach will trace to him. By morning. No one will question it. The pieces clicked. Horrible clarity. This wasn't just marriage. It was removing anyone who might give her strength to resist. Jack wasn't just at risk of transfer. He was about to be framed for something that could destroy his life and take Emily away forever. The accusation came at 6 a.m., shattering the morning routine like glass. Police and security at the flat. Just as Jack made Emily's favorite pancakes. Charges devastating. Corporate espionage. System sabotage. Millions in corrupted data. Compromised clients. Emily watched wide-eyed from the kitchen doorway as strangers searched their small home. Her drawings scattered. Daddy, she said, small voice cutting through. Are you in trouble? Did you do something bad? Jack knelt. Calm despite rage. Building inside. Everything's going to be fine, love. Just grown-ups making mistakes. About other grown-ups. But the evidence was damning. Professionally crafted. His keycard used. On restricted servers. When cameras malfunctioned. Login everywhere. Like fingerprints at a scene. Only Olivia's sudden arrival stopped immediate arrest. In jeans and hoodie. Still commanding. He's not going anywhere, she told police. Steel in her voice. Producing documents. Her solicitor prepared pre-dawn. Sterling Enterprises handles this internally. Pending full investigation. No prosecution. Without absolute certainty. Police left. Reluctant. But unable to override. Damage done, though. Neighbors saw. Would talk. Whisper. Emily's school would hear. Parents would warn kids. Away from the cleaner's daughter. The quiet life Jack built was crumbling. After security left, Olivia found Jack on Emily's bed, reading her favorite story, as if nothing happened. Emily asleep at last. Exhausted by fear. Small hand clutching his shirt. I'm sorry. Olivia whispered from the doorway. Tears threatening. This is my fault. My father. He's gone further than I ever imagined.
Gentlemen, the
Jack
market
shook his
analysis
head,
confirms our
closed
strategy.
the book
We
gently,
proceed at full speed, no
joined her
delays.
in the narrow
Are we
hall,
aligned?
lined with Emily's art. This isn't about fault, he said quietly. Mind already working. This is about power. Control. Your father sees me as a threat to his plans for you. And he's right. I am. He moved to his laptop, fingers flying. But he made one mistake. They always do. When they underestimate the cleaner. Olivia watched, fascinated, as Jack accessed systems she didn't know existed. Pulled logs that looked like another language. I may have left defense work, he said, eyes on screen. But I never forgot how to defend myself. Every keystroke leaves traces. If you know where to look. Within an hour, he found it. The real breach. From Thomas Bradley's machine. Disguised brilliantly. To frame him. Timestamps off. subtle but undeniable. To someone who knew the architecture. "We need more than this," Jack said, jaw tight. "We need to prove conspiracy. Not just tech details. Juries and boards don't understand code. They understand betrayal." The next 3 days were careful deception. Olivia played perfect daughter, appearing to accept arrangements, while secretly recording every conversation, with devices Jack provided. She attended merger meetings, smiled at Marcus Chen, over lunch that made her skin crawl. Jack kept cleaning, but his real work happened in shadows, between mops and hoovers. Installed monitoring software, recovered deleted files, built a case that would stand anywhere. His skills, dormant 2 years, returned with frightening ease. Emily stayed with Mrs. Patel, the kind neighbor, who'd become like a nan, told only. "Daddy's doing important work." For nice Miss Olivia. The breakthrough came on backup servers Thomas didn't know existed. Old systems Jack himself helped design years ago. When Sterling briefly contracted with his old firm, there it was. Original code. Real breach time-stamped. Hours before Jack's credentials were supposedly used. And emails, hundreds. Thomas to Richard, discussing the cleaner problem and need for permanent solution. Richard's reply, approving the frame, warning to keep Olivia ignorant until after the engagement announcement. Financial records too. Thomas promised bonus and promotion once Olivia neutralized via marriage, and Richard resumed shadow control. Jack shared it all in another late-night rooftop meeting. City lights bearing witness. "This destroys them both," he said, showing the tablet. "Your father, Thomas. Anyone else involved. Serious fraud office territory. Conspiracy to defraud. False accusations. Potential corporate manslaughter. If it escalates." Olivia stared, seeing her father's words. His betrayal. Not just of Jack, but of her. Laid bare. "He's still my father," she said quietly, a tear escaping. Jack nodded. "And Emily's still my daughter. I understand complicated love. How it survives betrayal." They stood in silence. City like a circuit board below. Until Olivia spoke. "Board meeting tomorrow. If we do this, it has to be then. Public, undeniable. Whole board present. No cover-up. No spin." She turned. Moonlight catching tears. She wouldn't let fall. "After tomorrow, everything changes. No going back." Jack took her hand. Gentle. "Everything already has changed," he said. "The moment you trusted me." With that note, both our lives shifted. They didn't name what grew between them. Beyond partnership. Deeper than either expected. Tomorrow would bring revelations. Tonight they just stood. Two people. Ready to risk everything. For truth. And each other. The boardroom was a monument to power. Brazilian rosewood. Italian leather chairs. Costing more than cars. Table for 30. But only 12 today. The most powerful. In British business. Richard sat at the head. Supremely confident. Olivia to his right. Apparently ready to announce engagement to Marcus Chen and secure the future. Thomas smirked opposite, fingers drumming on his falsified evidence. Before regular agenda, Richard said, voice of decades unchallenged. Olivia has an announcement regarding Asian expansion and the Chen alliance. Olivia stood slowly, smoothed her blue Dior, every inch the corporate princess. I do have an announcement, she said. Clear, strong. But it's not about marriage. Or the Chen merger. The door opened. Perfect timing. Jack walked in. Not in overalls, but charcoal suit. Stored 3 years. Looking every inch The engineer executive he once was. Several board members shifted, recognizing bearing that didn't match assumptions. Richard's face darkened. Security. Olivia raised a hand. Mr. Miller is here. At my personal invitation, she said. Strength making others sit straighter. He has information the board needs. Regarding the recent breach. That cost millions. And nearly destroyed our client relationships. Jack connected his laptop. Smooth, professional. Board members. He began. Quiet authority. Of someone who once briefed. The mod and NATO. You've been told. I, a cleaner. With supposedly no tech knowledge. Somehow breached your most secure systems. I'm here to show the truth. And the truth is far more disturbing than a simple breach. Evidence unfolded. Like a prosecutor's closing. Timestamps. Emails. Camera footage. Of Thomas at his machine. During the real breach. Coded messages. Between Richard and Thomas. Planning the frame. Room tension rose. Alarmed glances. This is ridiculous. Thomas stood. Face flushed. You're believing. A cleaner. Over your executive team? Obviously fabricated. Jack clicked. Audio of Thomas on call. The cleaner's access codes are perfect. No one will question it. Just make sure evidence is solid enough for arrest. But not so perfect. It looks planted. Room erupted. Controlled chaos. Demands for explanation. Richard stood. Composure cracking. You don't understand, he said to Olivia. Rage and desperation mixed. Everything I did was to protect the company. To protect you. From your own weakness. Your emotional decisions. Olivia was done being protected. No, Dad. Everything you did was to keep your power. Even after retirement. You were so afraid of losing control. You were willing to destroy an innocent man's life. Separate a father from his daughter. She looked round the table. Meeting every eye. Jack Miller isn't just a cleaner. He's a former defense contractor. PhD from Imperial. Clearance most of us couldn't dream of. And more integrity than anyone here. He took a cleaning job. To be there for his daughter. After his wife died. And you tried to use that devotion against him. The board voted within the hour. Unanimous. Richard removed as chairman. Banned from premises. Thomas terminated with cause. Assets frozen. Pending criminal investigation. Full serious fraud office probe launched. As room cleared. Murmurs of damage control. And press statements. Emily appeared in the doorway. Brought by Mrs. Patel. After Jack's call it was safe. She ran. Small arms round his legs. Did you win, Daddy? Jack picked her up. Held her close. Breathing strawberry shampoo. We all won, sweetheart. Olivia approached. Armor gone. Vulnerable but free. What happens now? She asked. Hand reaching tentatively. 6 months later. Sterling Enterprises had a new head of security systems. Jack Miller. His innovative work already saved millions. Stopped 3 serious breach attempts. His office, 40th floor. City view. Emily's pictures everywhere. But the biggest change wasn't professional. Olivia moved from her father's cold mansion to a warm terraced house in Islington with a little garden where Emily could play. Rooms that felt like home, not a museum. The corporate princess and the cleaner had become something neither expected. A family built on trust, respect, and love. Grown from the unlikeliest place. Richard, facing investigation and social exile, retreated to his estate in the Cotswolds. Empire intact. Influence shattered. He sent one letter. Not quite apology, but acknowledgement. He might have been wrong about strength and what love meant. She kept it in a drawer, unopened, but not forgotten. Reminder how far she'd come. Sunday mornings. Jack made pancakes, while Olivia helped Emily with art projects. The three of them, creating a life. Nothing to do with hierarchies or defense contracts. They'd learned. The most profound connections come from the strangest places. Trust can bloom in shadows of suspicion. And love doesn't care about job titles or bank balances. Tell me again how you and Daddy met. Emily would ask at bedtime, curled between them on the sofa, safe and loved. Jack and Olivia would exchange glances, remembering that night of fear and desperation. That changed everything. She needed help. Jack would say simply, arm round Olivia's shoulders. And I was in the right place at the right time. Olivia would add, squeezing Emily's hand. He was the only one brave enough to see me as a person, not a position. And that made all the difference in the world. The story grew with each telling. Family legend. But the heart stayed true. Sometimes the most valuable person in the room is the one everyone overlooks. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is trust someone who has nothing to gain except knowing it's right. The city lights twinkled outside their windows. Same lights that witnessed their first real conversation on a rooftop. But now they weren't isolation or danger. Now they were just lights, beautiful in their way, like the unexpected family formed in their glow. In the end, Jack hadn't just saved Olivia from those who wished her harm. They'd saved each other from lives of loneliness and loss, proving redemption and love can come in the most unexpected forms. And in a bedroom decorated with butterflies and rainbows, a little girl slept peacefully, knowing her father was no longer alone. Their small family had grown. And sometimes the best stories begin with a note slipped between strangers in the middle of the night, a desperate plea for help that became the foundation of a love strong enough to overcome anything.